Today we're looking at the Sefaspe MiG 205 DS. It's an inverter welder that does 6 different functions. It'll do MiG, flux, lift TIG, MMA, which is just stick welding, and spool gun. But it does not come with like a spool gun, and it doesn't come with a TIG torch or anything like that. So it does come with a MiG and flux core function, stick welding function. So that's what we're really interested in. My biggest interest in this machine is being able to do sheet metal. I want to come at it with the approach that I've never owned a welder before. Even though I do own welders, I don't know much about welding. I don't know much of the technology or terminology. But this one has synergic welding capabilities, which means when you turn the wire feed or the amps up, when you turn one up, it controls the other one to its optimum setting. And we'll talk more about that later. That's kind of a synergy is kind of a dirty word from the from like Wall Street days, when you see posters everywhere in factories and businesses where synergy, it preaches synergy. But this is something different. This is synergic. It just means two things working together for a better outcome, for the benefit of the one, I guess. Let's take a look at what's offered in the pack. First, you get the welder itself. It's a digital inverter welder. You get a stinger for welding rods, ground clamp. Get a pretty long gas hose. Then you get this torch. Torch is very similar. I mean, it's a torch. It's like your wire torch for your MiG. But it has, I guess they call it the Euro design, Euro input. But it's got the blue one, kind of like the Art Captain welder. And it looks like it might be probably, I think it's something like 8 or 9 feet long. It's got a pretty decent size. I know the ground it's got a pretty good length. The one I opened up the other day they were about 10 feet long. The ground, the stinger, and this torch here. And it comes with 2 different little wheels. This one's for flux core, so it's got the teeth on it. And then it's got one installed in the machine. It's 0.8 and 1.0, which is for 30 and 35 wire gauge solid wire. I've got the solid wire roller in it for 0.8, and that means I'm going to put 030 wire in when I find some. It does not come with wire. Doesn't really come with anything except what you see here, but that's all you really need to get started. That doesn't come with a regulator, which you have to provide your own tank and regulator if you're going to MiG, or you can use flux core, which just requires putting the wire in and setting up your amperage direction, like positive or negative welding. Now that's getting into things that I don't know much about. I just know when we do MiG, we're going to do positive input. When we do flux core, we're going to do negative input, or if we stick weld, we're going to do negative. Put this into the negative side. Or no, I take that back. On MiG, we're going to put this in the positive side, but on flux core, we will move this over to the negative side. Or if we're going to use this stick welding attachment, we would put it in negative and disconnect that part, dongle. So I guess what we'll do next is I'll try to get moved around here and set up so we can take a look at what I'm going to do. I want this to be just like you've got a project you really needed to do. You're looking for an affordable welder. You get on Amazon and you pick this up, and it should be easy to weld right out of the box. We're going to pretend, which I don't know that about welding anyway, but we're going to pretend this is my first welder, my first day with it, and I've got some welding to do. And I've got some 18 gauge steel set up over here with a slight little gap in it, and we're going to weld just like we were doing welding on sheet metal, because that's what I plan on doing with this welder. I ordered we ordered these patch panels for the sides of our 88 Chevrolet pickup truck, and that's what we're planning on welding in with these. I probably won't use the whole entire panel. I'll probably just trim around it and use what we actually need, just the arch part. Maybe try to weld it along this seam or something. We just want to fit in. I don't want square corners when we weld our edges. It just keeps it from getting little bumps. Another thing we might practice on, though, I missed a few spots on this hood. there's a bunch of holes that I didn't fill all the way up, so we might try to go around it and hit some of this metal here and just see how it does on this thin metal, because that hood scoop is really thin and it's already got a dent in it. And we got a few more little spots here that we can, well, this has got to go on the Nova someday because I don't have a hood on. I've been riding around without a hood. This is a 76 Nova hood. But I installed a 220 plug, and I've never had a 220 plug in this garage before. This thing over here will run off 220 or 110. So if you're just welding sheet metal, you probably only need 110, but I just want to use this 220 plug adapter that comes with it just to try it out and see how it welds with it. See if it makes any difference. Or on thin sheet metal, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference. So I'll get set up here and we'll see what it looks like actually welding. Well, almost got it hooked up, but it seems I have no gas. So we'll pick up when I get a bottle of gas. We've got the welder powered up. And let's take a look at the controls for just a minute. The first button is a little triangle. And you can switch the modes. Let's go to the top. There's MMA, which is, I guess, stick welding. It's hard to see. There's lift TIG, which it doesn't come with the TIG torch or the connections for the gas for the TIG torch. But apparently you can't get it. So there's the MIG mag for just regular MIG and gas. There's the MIG mix, which is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using mixed gas instead of straight gas. And there's flux core for when you're flux core wiring. And then you've got your spool gun for like if you're going to do aluminum welding or something, use a spool. And it does have a connector for a spool gun, and you can set it up for any polarity that you want. So we're going to set it back to the one that we need, which is MIG mix. Then you got your 2T there, which 2T is when you pull the trigger, the wire comes out, and when you let off the trigger, the wire stops. But then you got 4T. You have to hold this button for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll switch it to 4T mode. And if all 4T is like if you're doing a lot of heavy welding, you can click the button and the welder will feed continuously. And then you click the button again and it'll shut the feed off. So you can it's for continuous welding when you're doing long runs and stuff. So I'm going to hold this for 5 seconds again. And switch it back to 2T. Now this also has 2 more functions, this one left-hand knob. It doesn't do anything, just spinning it, because this is a, what do they call that? Synergic welder. So in synergy mode, when you turn the right knob, it turns the voltage and the wire speed at the same time. And it's set up for what is best suited for this volts. That is the right amount of, I guess, it says meters per minute, but it's probably more like inches or something, inches per minute. But over here on this side, if you want to look at this switch here again, you can really quickly touch it and it'll show the like arc length spray there, the little spray thing right there above the 2T. And it's really adjustable. It's got quite a bit of adjustment on your arc length. I'm going to leave it at 0 for now and assume that they've got it set up for the best possible synergy, I guess, where the 2 work together. But you can also hit it twice really fast and it sets your inductance. Now I may be saying these backwards, but this is your inductance and it's got quite a bit of adjustment too. But so it's that knob in this mode, it has 3 different functions. Now with synergy and synergic, as they call it, they have thought about it, and the more expensive, more modern welders have that synergy function to where they've really thought about it, the metal thickness that you're going to be using. If you set your voltage for the metal thickness, which this has most of these welders have a setup guide on the side, but this one does not. It doesn't even have a setup guide in the manual. But I guess they're assuming that if you get it to where that it goes down to 14 is the lowest, and it's put like 7, 8 I guess 78 inches per minute, or according to that, it's meters per minute. But I don't think it's going to be putting out 78 meters per minute. So it's probably inches. That's probably not correct. It's probably 78 inches per minute at 14 volts. You can turn it up. It's just going to apply the amount of voltage that's going to work best with the inches of wire that you're running through the machine. You don't have to think about it. You don't have two knobs to adjust. Now, if it turns out that you've got this set on 16 volts and 118 you feel is either too slow or too fast, you can go in and click your arc length button and increase your heat and arc length and lower it. Or you can increase your inductance or lower your inductance to better suit the speed of the wire that it's running. I'm not really good at explaining this because I don't know the welding jargon, but I'm sure somebody will correct me. But the thing about it is, just set up and go. I think the best thing to do, if we're just going to be welding sheet metal, we'll start out at a low setting and a low wire speed that works together. Somewhere we can do thin sheet metal like 18 or 20 gauge, and it's on 220 right now. I've got it plugged into 220 AC. So we'll go as low as we can, but more than likely, most people, including myself, I'm going to be using just a 110 outlet, and I'm going to be running this on 110. I just wanted to plug it in and see if my wiring was right that I wired into the box and make sure that everything worked out right. If it does sense a fault or low voltage or short, it will either won't run, of course, or it'll tell you, it'll give you a warning. There's a little light somewhere that comes on that tells you that there's a voltage problem. So because it automatically senses voltage, it could sense below 110 all the way up to like 230 or 240. It can sense and tell you if there's a voltage problem, a voltage drop or over voltage. So it does have that function. It's kind of a safety. It does have a fan that's not running right now, but I noticed just sitting here leaving it sitting that it does kick on periodically to self-cool, but it doesn't run at all until you start welding, which I've not done any welding with it because I haven't got my gas yet. I'm still, turns out that nobody around here has any. They're out, so I'm waiting on that to come in this following Monday. So that's we're just going to start out with some thin sheet metal on the lowest setting and then work our way up and see if the wire and the voltage works together to get the little spots that we want. Because, of course, welding sheet metal, you're not going to do continuous lines of welding. You're just going to be doing spots until you fill it all in. That way you don't heat and warp the metal. So this is the hobbyist welder, I think. It says it's a professional quality inside. It's very inexpensive. And we're not going to be doing any big production runs or anything with it. So for what we need, assuming that this is the first welder we've ever owned, of course it's not, but we're taking that approach like this. We're just getting it out of the box, setting it up, and trying to do the work we need to do to get it done. And if we get those panels welded in the truck, or assume that it's going to weld the panels in the truck that we need, well, the cost of this welder for the labor that it would take just to weld one side of that truck in, you've paid for this welder here. So it will pay for itself the first time you use it if it does what you need it to do. So that's what we want to find out. Is this thing going to bring any value to us? Is buying it inexpensive, use it for what we need to do around here, and then set it back and store it till we need it next time. That's what we're looking for. Is it going to be worth the value without taking our vehicle to a body shop somewhere and paying $3,000 for somebody to put quarters in it? So that's what we're up against. We're looking to see if we're going to get any value out of it. Something I forgot to mention a minute ago is, of course, this is just a welder. And if you're going to do sheet metal work, you can just throw a roll of flux core wire in this welder and set it up for flux core and just go to town. People does body work all the time with flux core. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a little messier. There's a lot more spatter, and it makes a whole lot. I don't have any examples to show you here, but it makes quite a bit bigger mess. And I don't want to do body work with flux core. I have a couple of rolls of flux core wire, but the whole point of trying this out is to see if it'll do what we would have purchased it for in the first place. So I want to stay away from the flux core, but there is another cost. If you don't have a welding tank to get your gas, I got the small one. I got like the 4 foot or 3 foot tank, and I think it was over $100, but the good thing about that is the company Airgas that sold me the tank, the first time when I bought the tank, they filled it up. It didn't cost me anything. They just filled the tank. I don't know if they still do that, but with the purchase of the tank, you get the first fill for free. So I got lucky there. Plus, you can also sign up for a membership. You can also rent the tanks. You can rent the tanks off these companies and keep it and just pay like a monthly or a yearly rental fee. I think it's yearly on the tank, but you still pay for the gas. And I think he told me for the mixed gas, it's C25. It's going to be like 25% CO2 and 75% argon, I believe, is the mix that we're going to be using. It's good for MIG welding. I think that's right. C25 is what it's called. And I think he told me the fill for this half tank I got is going to be around $80. So that's another thing you got to consider. Even though you're buying a cheap welder, you still got to come up with a tank. And it does not come with a regulator. And I just happen to have a regulator, but not everybody will. I got this regulator on Amazon. I think it was a little pricey. I can't remember exactly what it was. If I can remember when we finish this, I'll actually put an Amazon link to the regulator. And I can't put a link to the tank because I don't think Amazon sells the little torch tanks. The gas tanks. But just have to remember that. And like I had to have a cart. Harbor Freight has the carts. They're like 50 or 60 bucks. I think you can get some little cheaper ones. Amazon also has them. I think they're under $50 for the little welding cart. So there's a few expenses you got to get into. And there's also the fact, if you're using this on 110, you have to have a 12 gauge extension cord to run it. But a lot of people have extension cords laying around. You just have to be careful not to use a lightweight one because it'll either kick out for undercurrent or it'll kick your breaker. So the next step is to get some welding done and stop talking. I just wanted to point out the things that I've noticed about it and the cost that it's going to be for getting into your first welder, because it's not just going to be plug it up and go unless you use flux core. And for body work, I really wouldn't use it. I put my 4-pans in with flux core and ground it off and seam sealed everything, and you can't tell that I use flux core. But as far as doing outside body work, I think I would want a gas for that. All right, we're headed off in a different direction. I couldn't get any gas for a while, so I'd like to wrap this video up and at least show some of the things that this welder can do. I have loaded it with flux core, and I wanted to see if the functions were the same on flux core with your like arc length and your inductance. I want to see if it had those values on flux core. And it does. You can adjust your arc length. And you can adjust your inductance on flux core, so that's cool. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to, but it is cool that you can do that. So we have flux loaded in the machine. It's a 030 wire, and I'm going to change to a project that I still need to do. I'm not going to put welding sheet metal with it. I'm going to try it on sheet metal. I got something set up. I'm going to try it, but the big thing I want to do is I've got 2 exhaust manifolds that I may or may not use. But they are just destroyed. The studs are broke off. At least in this one, that stud is broke, and it's going to have to come out. So I don't know if I'll weld a nut on it or what I'll do. Maybe just try to heat it and put some vice grips on it. But I'm definitely going to stick a spot of flux core right in the center, try to get the center of that bolt, and then weld a washer on it. And weld that bolt to the washer, and then put a nut on the washer. Sorry, I had it offside there. But I'll show you when we get to it. But first thing I want to try to do is, while I can see it, is try to reach in there and just put a tap on that. And it's really, this flux core is kind of dirty, and it dirties your gun up a little bit. So I've got some cooter snot. I'm going to dip the tip of that welder in that cooter snot just to keep it from sticking, that flux core from sticking to the welder. Get it set up here. Hope it don't ruin my camera, which it probably will. I want to turn the voltage up a little bit. Turn it up to 15 volts. That gets us 090 on our wire speed. It's still just beading up. What I don't like about it, makes it such a mess. Oh, that just made a little ball that's laying on the surface. You can see that, it's just not even penetrating. So I'm going to go up to 18. It's 224 on the wire speed. See how it sizzles now. Well, I welded it to the cast iron. Doesn't look like it hit the bolt. I can take this helmet off a second. Got a big glob right there on the cast iron. Let me try to get that off there with a hammer. Ooh. That's hot. Where's all the fuzz coming from? I'm going to hold it right in that center and just try to burn it a little deeper. Starting to get a little spatter on everything. Now we need to find a nut that we can weld onto this washer. Okay, we got a nut. We'll try to weld right on there. I can find some way to hold it. Try these welding pliers. Ooh, it got hot. Look how red that is. That's so hot it's melting the nut. turn it down a little, melting the nut now. Sticking to that washer very good. Oh, it's making that whistling noise. She's hot. I'm gonna let that cool a little bit. Well, there it is with the, I welded the washer onto the stud, then welded the nut onto the washer. And it's pretty raggedy, but it's not meant to be perfect. It's just meant to hold. And I think flux core will be fine for that. So what I'm worried about is did we give it enough penetration into the stud, but turning that thing blood red when it was welded and worked like an induction heater, it should have maybe cracked that thread loose a little bit. I've got 3 more of these studs to do. I gotta get that one out too. There's not one in that, but I think the threads are all boogered, so I may wind up having to weld the stud into it. I got new studs for it. Let's see what this will do. It may take 3 or 4 tries. Oh, broke right off. This one's so far down in there, it may wind up being having to be drilled out. It just had a little bit of penetration. Everything else welded up good, but that is so just dirty acting. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get anything welded to that or not. Let's try it again. Now, let that cool and we'll put a nut on there. While we're waiting on that, let's see how well this thing spot welds. My pliers ain't working. There's a gob of crap in there. Bad idea to use my pliers. Let's try some sheet metal while we wait on that to cool. I got it turned all the way down to 14. It's way down now. It's not flattening out like I would like. I'm gonna turn it up a half. Well, maybe 1 point. It's on 15 now. It's still beading up. Yeah, it's beading up. Let's go up a little more. I still got this thing plugged into 220. Let's drill. It's welding it, but it's still standing up kind of tall. Let's go up a little more. I'm surprised. 16.5. Now this is just flux core. Now that flattened out pretty good. 16.5, 137, I guess, inches per minute. That flattened out real good. If you can see it, it's the bottom one. Yeah, that flattened out just about as good as with gas. So I got it set on 16.5. You could probably do sheet metal work with this with flux core. Let's do a couple more right together and see what it does. Sure makes a mess. It flattened out pretty good. Get this camera where we can see. Flattened out pretty good. You could do sheet metal with this, and there's a little splatter, but you could change the inductance and cut down on that splatter. I think you can go up on the inductance setting, leave the wire speed the same, and raise the inductance and knock some of that splatter out. It ain't splattering much anyway, very little. But you go up on the inductance a little bit, that gives you a little more volts and keeps the wire speed the same. Actually, it doesn't change the voltage, it changes I guess maybe the continuity. I'm not sure how the inductance works, but it works. It doesn't do much. Inductance, no matter how much range you got, it doesn't do much on these welders. And I take that back about saying it doesn't do much. From what I understand, when you got either zero inductance, your weld pools solidifies really fast, and it makes a lot of like little sparks. But when you go up on your inductance, it stays more liquid and creamy. But one thing about it that it does, it cuts down on your splatter a little bit. The arc ignites, I guess, a lot closer to the metal. But I tried to read and understand what inductance was, but it's Greek to me. I'm not a professional, and I'm just somebody trying to figure out how to get the least amount of grinding out whenever I'm putting sheet metal together. But it does work pretty good. I could do sheet metal with this, but I'm going to stick to trying to get these bolts out. I've got to grind this and find a little nut to weld on there. Something else I just realized, I've not even had the ground clamp on this metal, and this metal's just barely touching the table. Whoops, there went my whip, hit the ground. That's bad. Can't really see, it's getting dark outside. Let's let that cool a minute. These aren't very good vice grips. They are Irwin brand. They are a vice grip brand. Just rang off. Thing is, that one's just going to have to be drilled out because it's too far deep down in there. The bottom line on this welder, this MiG 205DS from Sefaspe, it weld. Will it weld? Absolutely. Will it be a good hobbyist welder for doing stuff around the house? Absolutely. I couldn't get this out, but I don't think any welder was going to get me down in there enough to get that out. I'm just going to have to drill it out probably, or I wasn't going to use exhaust manifolds at all on the project, so I'll probably just get something else. I do have one new one from another vehicle, and I've got one that's been soaking over there in the D-rust stuff, but it's not coming off, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get these other studs out, but I wanted to do it as an example of what you can do with these welders. It probably, if we kept on digging at it, it would probably eventually twist out. But these things they're so uneven and so far gone around the edges. Don't look at the splatter. But we're around the bolts, rusted, so swollen around the bolts that I don't think I'm going to be able to use them again and actually make them seal without grinding them flat, refacing them. I could do that. I could reface them, but these are so cheap. You can get these online for a little nothing. Get them in junkyards for $5, or you can get shorty headers that truck has O2 sensors. But we're not talking about the exhaust. It does weld sheet metal pretty good. I mean, I was surprised using flux core that it welded that good, and I bet with gas welding it'll do even better. So I'll do a second part on this welder. When I get some gas, we will come back and we'll do another video. And I'm pretty pleased with the way it lays down and flattens out with this flux core, and it doesn't have a whole lot of splatter. And like I said, you could adjust the arc spray and the inductance and probably get even better results with it using flux core. So you may not, if you're working on your car in your garage, you just need an affordable welder and you want to do it without gas, just get some flux core wire. That'd be your only other investment. Of course, you need a good welding helmet, but you can pick those up pretty good. I recommend the auto darkening helmet. This is a Miller auto darkening. It's pretty reliable, and it's got a lot of adjustability. You can grind with it, and it shuts off automatically. And I think it recharges from the welding arc. But the batteries in it, they last a long time. The batteries in that one's been in a couple of years. But would I recommend this for a first-time buyer for a welder? Yeah, absolutely. Get it, bring it home, do the project you need, sell it on to somebody else and get your money back. Or if you do a big job like putting those side panels in that pickup that I want to do, this thing is paid for itself in that one job. So it's basically free after that. I mean, they're very affordable. You can look online. I'll put an Amazon link in. I'll put a link to my Amazon store also. And it don't cost you any more to go through my Amazon store, but it does help me out when you buy it. But I'll put a link to their link and the Amazon store link. You can pick it whichever one you want. I do recommend this little, I got it on 220 right now. It does run on 110. Maybe when we get some gas, we'll try to do some sheet metal with 110. And I will do another review on this welder because I'm not done with it. I just want to wait till I get some more stuff and some time. Everything's always about time. But when you don't have what you need, use what you got, and you don't need anything that way. Just use what you have. I heard one of the other YouTubers say that, and I really like it. When you don't have what you need, just use what you have. So that's what we've done today. We've improvised. I appreciate you guys. I thank y'all for watching. And come back and join us when we do another review when we get some gas in. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Stay clean, everybody.